ופרצת, 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 ופרצת ימה וקדמה, צפונה ונגבה.
So this Sefer is from 5746, which is 1986 of Kislev. So Thursday night is the 9th of Kislev, and the 9th of Kislev is the birthday and the Halula of the Mikla Rebbe. And for us, it's a minor holiday.
Yes.
And the next day is more of a holiday. It's the day of liberation of the Mikla Rebbe from prison.
From Soviet prison. From the Soviet prison.
No.
No?
No.
Which prison?
Tsar. Until 1917.
Okay. Got it.
The Mikla Rebbe, his Halula probably was around the 1830s.
Got it.
And what happened when he was arrested, he told the officials, the Tsar's officials, that they have to allow him to say Hasidus, or else he'll pass away. and so Hasidus, I think, a few times a week. And his prison stay was relatively pleasant because of his father's efforts on behalf of the war against Napoleon. The Alter Rebbe and his descendants were entitled as honored citizens of the Tsar of Russia. So they had certain privileges, and Chabad Rebbeim took advantage of that to help. I'd like to see this. The 10th, this is section 1. The 10th of Kislev is the day of liberation of the Mikla Rebbe, the son and successor of the Alter Rebbe, the founder of Chabad Hasidus. So that will be Friday night at Shabbos. So it's the same this year as the Sefer. The theme of this day repeats itself each year, and we can draw its lessons for the entire year in increased action and divine service. Although we cannot fathom the true essence of the spiritual giant, we can analyze those aspects that have been revealed to us by the earlier Rebbeim, and this can serve as a guidepost for our lives.
We're early, aren't we?
You're late. Come sit.
To shave.
Listen to the doctor.
Only this map's for you. This comes in, I just want to point out, I'll give you what I know. This is Kishinev.
Kishinev.
In Moldova.
Oh, no, I know what
that
you
was
mean.
Ukraine, and that's where my family's from.
Yeah, you know what? Right next to this is coming as Podolsk. That's where my family is.
Yeah, that's why I gave you the map. So
Thank you very much. Thank you, appreciate it. See, this is the book. I thought it was.
All right, we're doing the share now.
Okay.
After this year.
Thanks for the map.
Hold the what together?
Okay. So what the Rebbe is going to do is bring down from some of the other Rebbeim about how they understood and celebrated the 10th of Kislev. The Frierdiker Rebbe related that the Alter Rebbe symbolized the aspect of Chokhmah. Everyone knows what Chokhmah is, yes?
Wisdom.
Chachma, I've heard it before. Das?
Das, knowledge. And this makes the acronym for Chabad. Chokhmah being the
That's the
acronym.
same word as dot. Oh, dati, that's Hebrew, dati.
Yes.
Then-
That's not the same word. Das is the
No.
knowledge. Dati means religious.
It also,
Oh,
it
das
also-
is knowledge, okay.
yeah, okay.
Chachma is wisdom.
Yeah.
So here, that Alter Rebbe symbolized the aspect of Chokhmah, wisdom, and the Mittel Rebbe symbolized Bina, understanding. So in the Kabbalist retreat, Chokhmah is on the right and Bina is on the left. Chokhmah represents the male aspect, and Bina the female aspect, and why?
Shechina,
No, Bina.
Bina.
Bina. Bina. B-I-N.
Well, they talk about on the Bina, isn't it? Or the Bima.
Different word. Different letters.
Okay.
Almost.
So Chokhmah is represented by the letter Yud, because it's a seminal point of inspiration, and Chokhmah is represented by the letter Hey. And why the letter Hey? Because the letter Hey disperses things, lets things flow out.
Excuse me.
And so
What are we reading from, please?
I'm reading from,
Sichos in English.
I'm reading from Sichos in English. These are teachings of the Rebbe, and this one's from. And so when you read like for example, Tanya,
Mm-hmm.
written by the Alter Rebbe, and then you read the teachings of the Mittel Rebbe,
Yeah.
you can see how the Mittel Rebbe could take a paragraph of the Alter Rebbe and turn it into a whole chapter. So that's why he's been, because he takes the seminal point and expands on it. Through the Mittel Rebbe, we were introduced to the comprehension of the broad expanses of Chabad philosophies. So I learned some of the Mittel Rebbe, and it's amazing that although there's 53 chapters in Tanya, plus the additions, the Mittel Rebbe just expands it greatly and gets into the very Kabbalistic aspects of what the Alter Rebbe wrote. So we have to keep in mind that the Alter Rebbe wrote Tanya for his Hasidim, who already were familiar with these concepts. Compared with the amplitude of Hasidic writing of the Alter Rebbe, the Mittel Rebbe wrote at much greater length, and both quantitatively and qualitatively, he gave us much more than was revealed before. The greater perception which we derive from the works of the Mittel Rebbe attests to his role in developing Hasidic philosophy in a broader, deeper, and more apprehensible fashion. So one of the things, one of the teachings of the Mittel Rebbe that I find very, very interesting is that when you come to a new topic, when you come to a new subject, you first learn the particulars, and then you learn the general idea, and then once you learn the general idea, then you can put those particulars that you may not have really understood before, you can put them and understand things in a much more comprehensive way. So in Hasidus they talk a lot about the particulars and the general. The innovations of the Mittel Rebbe may also be associated with his liberation from prison, as expressed in the term, quote, "He has redeemed my soul in peace," okay, which we associate both with the liberation of the Alter Rebbe and the Mittel Rebbe. So what does this mean? that the Alter Rebbe was in prison. So shortly after Sichos, in the second year, 1898, and he was liberated on Yud Tes Kislev, the 19th of Kislev.
Which is a big celebration in the Chabad community.
Yes.
Yeah.
The day that the Alter Rebbe was released from prison, he was reading Psalms, and he was reading. So there's a nigun for that. But I don't remember the beginning of many of the nigun. Once I hear it, I could repeat it, but I always have trouble remembering. But there is a nigun for that.
A song with that. Is that what a nigum is?
Say again.
A nigum?
Nigun,
Huh?
Nigun.
Nigun.
It's a melody
without words.
without words. It's
Oh yeah,
just the
nigum
music.
is a song.
Yeah. No words, just music.
Which is what the Torah is.
No.
song.
We're talking about a song
Yes.
without words.
Oh,
Yeah. So it's the melody without words.
And okay, and why is that such an important entity in Hasidus in general, not just Chabad? Other Hasidic groups have hundreds and hundreds of nigunim. Because a nigun transcends intellect and emotion, so it, which is the essence of a Jewish person's soul, what we might call the Pentelayid. It allows.
What was the word? That's the name of the pinnacle of what a Jew is? What's the word?
Pentala?
No, you said that something was the pinnacle of what a Jewish soul is. What is?
Okay.
Sorry.
There's 5 levels of the soul. Okay. There's nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya, and yechida. The yechida is the highest
Yeah,
level.
that's the word I didn't
And
get.
yechida transcends, and because of that, it allows the soul to make a very direct connection with the essence of Hashem, because it's your essence and Hashem's essence, and it's beyond intellect and beyond emotion. When people would go to have an audience with a Hasidic Rebbe, what do they call it? They call
Yechidus.
it Yechidus. Why? How many here, I guess everyone here probably has seen Star Trek, yes?
Yeah.
Okay. So that was Mr. Spock's mind meld. The Rebbe's the Rebbe is a collective soul. So every Jewish person's soul has a relationship inside the Rebbe.
nefesh is the soul. Isn't
There's
it?
5 levels to the soul.
5 parts.
5 levels. Oh.
5 levels. From here all the way up.
Nefesh is the lowest, and Yechida is the highest. And Yechida transcends intellect and emotion. So a nigun allows us to get to that level. And in 770, you could have 5,000 men singing the nigun all at once, and it's just awesome.
It lifts the whole room.
Excuse me.
In the year 7,
No, in the place 770 Eastern Parkway.
oh yes, I've been there before. I saw the Rebbe. I stayed at a Chabad house.
Did you have an audience with the Rebbe? Did you
No,
go
I
into the
didn't
Rebbe's
talk
room?
to him, but I did stay at one of the rabbi's homes for a few days.
Which rabbi, do you remember?
No.
I used to live in Crown Heights. So that's
Did
all.
you? Oh.
On his redemption on the 19th of Kislev, the Alter Rebbe wrote that he was informed of his freedom. He was reading chapter 55 of the Tehillim because it is the section of the Tehillim that is assigned to Tuesday according to the 7-day division of Tehillim. So if you look at a Chabad book of Tehillim, you'll see it's divided into different days, and on Tuesday is the day that we read chapter 55.
Is that word related to Tefillin? Tefillin?
No, Tehillim,
Tehillim.
Psalms. Day of the month, so you read a portion based on that part of the day of the month, and then there's the chapters, which is the third way. And you can read either the whole book of Psalms in 7 days, you can read the book of Psalms in 1 month, or you can read it one chapter at a time, whichever works for you. I recommend picking one and sticking with it, and reading Psalms whenever you can.
And Rabbi, I don't think I got your name.
My last name is Trachman.
With a T? Trachman.
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 Yeah.
Trachman.
Dr. Trachman.
Do you have a doctorate?
We're
Say
going to
doctor.
get back to the class right
Yeah.
now.
Yaakov Rebbe
Mm-hmm.
had accepted upon himself to recite the section of Tehillim for the days of the week while he was in prison. In the case of the Mittel Rebbe, however, chapter 55 is in the section read on the 10th of the month, according to the month. Therefore, that the Mittel Rebbe's relationship with that verse was stronger than the Alter Rebbe's, for in the case of the 19th of Kislev, which would apply only when the 19th falls on a Tuesday, and only for those who read the full Tehillim section of the days of the week. Whereas in the case of the Mittel Rebbe, the verse 19, Kodesh Shalom, is always read on the 10th of the month by everyone. We now garner a lesson and find a source of inspiration and power from the 10th of Kislev for our actual divine service. Because the Mittel Rebbe presented us with the broad rivers of Hasidic understanding, today we have the opportunity to increase our involvement in Hasidic philosophy in the broad sense. So in the teachings of the Mittel Rebbe, he refers to rivers, to a broad river, because a broad river has notably 3 dimensions. It has a width, it has a length, and has a depth.
Yeah.
And then he points out how these are connected to everything else. This will include increased study in quantity and depth of understanding, as well as spread possible audience to the outside. And then the Rebbe is going to relate this to Yaakov, to the Pasha, a little later on. Since the Mittel Rebbe developed his system of depth and breadth of Hasidus in the years prior to his imprisonment, he passed away 1 year after being liberated.
Mm.
So the Mittel Rebbe was born on the 10th of Kislev,
Uh-huh.
and his Halula is in reference to Yaakov Avinu. It says right in the Chumash that Yaakov did not die.
Right.
Okay. So how is this possible? Rashi brings down that there was embalmers and there was all these things. How could you say he didn't die? So the reason is that a tzaddik has teachings, and when people still here in the physical world learn his teachings and spread those teachings, this is a life, number one. Number two, he leaves the physical world, his physical body, all the aspects of his soul. The nefesh stays here, but the other aspects of the soul are much, much more powerful. And so, even today, when people go to the Rebbe's resting place and they put a request in for a blessing, it happens. Now, you may say that this is a story that is is beyond that you could say. Now let me tell you this. 3.5, my left ventricle got almost completely clogged.
Hey.
Had to go to the emergency room and they put in a stent.
Mm-hmm.
So when they were bringing me in to do the procedure, my wife called one of our friends in Crown Heights. Now this friend is the brother of the rabbi from Poway who got shot.
Mm-hmm.
His name's the one who got shot is Rabbi Yisrael Goldstein, and our friend is Rabbi Levi Goldstein. So we're very friendly with them. And so I called him to put a message called a PAM, Pinyin Nefesh, to the Rebbe.
Mm-hmm. So you went to the Ohel?
Fax, I think he either called it in or faxed it.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in tremendous pain. It was so much pain that they were giving me morphine IV and it didn't take the pain away.
Mm.
It was severe pain. And I was lying on the table and all of a sudden the pain went away. That's when the stent went in and opened up.
Yeah.
So I looked at the clock. It was 7:15. Me upstairs to the
Recovery.
actually I had a room.
Ah.
I had to stay for a few days. There was some damage. Broke the center heel. While they were bringing me upstairs, my wife got a call from Levi Goldstein saying, I just got a call from the oil and the PAN was read at 10:15 New York time.
Which is 7:15 our time.
Exactly. Not 16, not 17, not 14. Exactly the same time.
Yeah.
And yes.
Oh, you don't have what stents in the heart?
Yeah, but they have to get in from somewhere, so they start at the arm and go up all the way to the heart.
Hmm. Okay. And the pain went away.
It was like a light switch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had this severe pain, and all of a sudden it was gone.
Yeah.
So I looked at the clock.
I heard some new information about the
Okay.
fact. Okay.
So it is in a like measure that our actions must be inspired and invigorated on this day to plug forth like the broad rivers in the greatest measure the expression and effulgence of Bina as personified in the Mikveh Rebbe, refined sympathetic resonance in the attribute of joy, in Hebrew, simcha. This is an essential connection between simcha and Bina, as we find in the verse, Psalm 113, verse 9, a joyful mother of children. In Tanya we learn that Chochmah and Bina are father and mother, which give birth to the children, the 7 attributes. So what are the 7 attributes? Torah, Tiferes, Netzach, Choi, Yesod, and Malchus. So these are the emotive qualities, and in Chabad philosophy, it's the intellect controls the emotions. So that's the Aleph base of Hasidus, is that the mind rules over the heart. Now there's a very, very nice story about this. So one of the Alter Rebbe's Hasidim, Rabbi Moshe Meisel's, handsome features, nice beard, everything about him. And he also knew many, many foreign languages and could speak them without an accent. So when the Alter Rebbe found out that Napoleon was coming to Russia, to invade Russia, the Alter Rebbe called Moshe Meisels and said to him, I want you, and we have a network, I want you to go to Napoleon's headquarters, land. And that's what ended up happening, and that's why Napoleon's troops and the horses, everything died, because there's no sustenance for them. So Moshe Meisel's eventually gets into Napoleon's map room. It's on a big table, and he's looking at it to see, where the invasion is. Just as he's looking, the door's wide open. Napoleon walks in, looks at him because he's unfamiliar with my heart rate and made it normal. And Napoleon saw that his heart was a normal rate, and took him into his confidence. And then later he related exactly what the plans were, so the Russians were prepared for the invasion. And because of that, as I mentioned before, the Alter Rebbe and his descendants had the title honorary citizen of Russia.
But they still threw him in jail. He had an easier term.
The Mitzvah Rebbe was in jail. It wasn't a harsh imprisonment.
So they're just politically required to
I mean,
imprison him or something.
in 1843 there was a conference that the Tsar ordered to convince the Jewish people that they have to have secular education. So that was the time when the Tzemach Tzedek was the Rebbe. And one of the forebears of the Soloveitchik family was also there. And there was a businessman, and then the Ministry of Education, and then someone from the Enlightenment movement. The Tzemach Tzedek was arrested 22 times during that conference, and it came to a point where the minister became so infuriated with him because he would not budge 1 inch on Torah. He said, "You are in rebellion against the Tsar." And Tzemach Tzedek answered, "Yes, but it's better to be in rebellion in the physical world than in the spiritual world." So, and even our Rebbe was in prison also. Water represents the attribute of Malchus, royalty. So why is Malchus is representative of royalty, also King David, but also the feminine aspect from the other 9 midos, it receives everything. Thus, the mother of children is joyful and passes on the joy to the children, the attributes. Now, we may also associate the broad river of Bina with the aspect of joy, which reaches the walls. The limitations of normal divine service are superseded by the inspiration of rejoicing, and one, in practical terms, on this day of the liberation of the Mitzvah Rebbe, we must vigorously increase all aspects of rejoicing in Torah and mitzvahs, and even in those permitted secular areas which one utilizes for the sake of heaven. This applies to men and boys as well as women and girls. So, what the Rebbe is saying here is that this is a day of joy. In Crown Heights, during the holiday of Sichos, they have dancing. The dancing starts at 9 or 10 at night and goes to 6 in the morning. And some people dance all night. Every night, all night. And this is in a state of joy that transcends everything, because under ordinary circumstances, you're not going to be able to dance for. Thus, the understanding must be combined with joy, and both aspects must be inspired and invigorated by the day of your Tes Kislev. In practical terms, okay, we read that. Should one ponder that this type of rejoicing would normally be reserved for the season of our rejoicing, which is Sichos, and Shmini Atzeret and Simchas Torah, in the month of this we place on joy and on piercing joy, forms a gateway through which all these aspects may rise and illuminate all aspects of divine service of the whole year, past and future, including even the joy of Tishrei, and become of its great broad rivers. It creates a wide gate for all aspects of service of the Holy One, blessed be He. So here it is very interesting. The Rebbe says here past and future. So how are we going to relate to that? Hashem is infinite, and because He's infinite, there's no sense of time.
Right.
So and we say it in our prayers that He is the same before, during, and after creation. Everything's the same.
But don't allow.
So when we connect, however, despite our wish that this joy be infinite, we are restricted by the clock, for we will have to conclude and pray mincha in a proper time. Therefore, we must seek an intensity of quality rather than an intensity of time, and in a short while we will seek to attain a lofty level of joy beyond all restrictions. This is in keeping with the verse in today's portion, Ufaratza, you shall spread out Ufaratza to the west, to the east, to the north, and to the south. So that's in the first aliyah of this week's portion. And as the Gemara says, he who delights in the Shabbos is given an unbounded heritage, the heritage of Yaakov, your father, Yaakov Avinu, like Yaakov, of whom it is written, you shall spread out to the west, to the east, to the north, and the south. Listen to the Kinnis. There are now about 6,000 shluchim
1,800 change.
in all corners of the world.
Oh, Hashem.
So the initiative by the previous Rebbes, channeled through our Rebbe, has produced this incredible. There's a story that someone once went to the not the current but the previous Satmar Rebbe, the Rebbe Yoel, and asked him, because at that time there were more Satmar Hasidim than Chabad Hasidim, and they asked the Satmar Rebbe, why don't you do what Chabad does? So this is the answer. He said, you're going to such and such a place, and I'll give you my blessing. Okay, so I'm going to call someone in who works in the diamond district, who's making hundreds of thousands, if not $1 million a year, and tell him to leave everything here and go to a place where there's hardly any Jews and establish a center. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. The Rebbe, the Lubavitcher Rebbe can do it. I can't do it.
I ask you about how does this fit in with Kabbalah?
It's all Kabbalah.
It's all Kabbalah.
Everything that we've been doing, everything that we've been teaching tonight is Kabbalah. Why do I say that? Because what the Alter Rebbe did is he took the teachings of the Arizal, Rabbi Yitzhak Luria,
Blessed memory.
in practical terms.
So he took something that was way up here for most of us, which we'd never be able to reach because it was so complicated and so esoteric, and brought it to where every person can understand.
That's how it was for many centuries.
Right.
It was for the
Elite.
the elite, yes.
Yeah.
And the common people didn't participate.
And
Very
the
much.
Alter Rebbe of Chabad brought it down to simple concepts. So when we can sit around this room and we can talk about things and study them in a way that makes sense to you and you and you and me and him and everybody else. And that's the big difference.
And since Yaakov is associated with the third meal of Shabbos, the time of intense delight, this is Suda Shlishi, it follows that this delight of unbounded heritage may be connected to the talks. You should utilize the opportunity and attain an intensity of joy beyond all limitations. May the joy break all fences. First of all, the fences of evil. If anything opposes holiness, it should be nullified, and even the good limitations or restrictions in the areas of holiness, the measured order of holiness, should also burst with the effulgence of joy and generate an infinite heritage. This will see that's what he did. And he was able to sustain his very holy state even in the Lavan, who represented
Evilness.
the evil. First, the complete land, the complete nation, and complete Torah and mitzvahs, and then the expansion of the borders, the broad river, and the unlimited heritage. And may we merit all of this in the final days of Golas.
Man.
So that finishes part one. So we're almost 8 o'clock.
Wow.
So we could stop.
Absolutely.
We could stop now.
Okay. So you want to tell everyone where we're going to be next week?
Where we're going to be? Well, next week, I think the Pasha is Vayishla. So that's what we do.
Okay. So Monday night at 7 p.m. right here at Chabad House Minyan. Sichos in English. Right?
With Hashem's help, because I have on next Monday at 3 o'clock, I have an echocardiogram scheduled,
I will say prayers for you and read Tehillim.
and it should go okay, so I'll be able to be here.
Okay.
If they find something that's not good, then I probably have to stay and have
God forbid.
Hash Shalom, but I'm due for one. I